Hello, fellow beach maniacs and island music lovers. Welcome to the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast, where we dive into the stories behind the music. I'm your host, the Beach Maniac himself, Bill Hurley.
Today, we're honored to be talking with Doyle Grisham, the legendary pedal steel guitar player for the Coral Reefer Band, who helped shape the sound of Jimmy Buffett's music both on stage and in the studio for nearly 3 decades.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard a steel guitar line tug at your heart during a Jimmy Buffett song, that most likely was Doyle. Doyle's still out there playing and touring with the Coral Reefer Band and other gigs, and in fact just returned from playing in Key West recently. Doyle, thank you so much for being my guest today on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm sorry we had to relay it so much because, unfortunately, I got a ear infection, and then going out to Key West and all that touring last week didn't help any. So
Yeah.
I've had to go back to the doctor a couple of times this week, but I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and I know you're a very busy man. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you.
So as I mentioned, you recently got back from a sort of a mini tour that wrapped up in Key West. Can you give us a little insight into what the life of a Coral Reefer Band member is like?
Well, I'll go back to the Jimmy days. Back in those days, we usually did about maybe 5 2-week tours a year. And we'd go out for like 2 weeks at a time, and we'd only play about 3 shows a week, and then we'd have off days in between, and we'd come home and wait till the next time. But now since Jimmy's gone, and we're playing some of the same venues that Jimmy used to play, but we don't really have the financial backing. Although Live Nation and Jimmy's management agency is behind us, and they're helping a lot. It's just that we have to usually go out and play just a couple of shows at a time. Although this summer now last year you may know, or anybody listening may know that we opened for the Doobie Brothers. Yeah, we did. We opened for the Doobies in August and September of last year. 10 days at a run. Of course, we only played maybe 6 or 7 days of that 10 days because we had off days. But since then, the shows went so good that Live Nation, the way I understand it, has asked us to come back and be the headliners for the same type of setup in June and in July, maybe July and August, or June and July of next year. And
awesome.
Yeah, those have already been set up as far as I know about. I just can't really. I don't know if I have permission to outline the shows or anything because I haven't been notified that's cool to do that. So, but it'll be advertised soon enough because
That's great news. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy to hear that.
Yeah, well, we were very happy because we didn't know if we were going to be able to do any more shows and or how it was going to run. But evidently we got enough, so now that we're headlining the shows.
Yeah. So with Jimmy gone, the Coral Reefer Band is still out there doing the big shows, drawing the big crowds.
Yeah, in fact, we're playing some of the same venues that Jimmy played, like up in Indianapolis and places like that, in Jiffy Lube over around D.C. And it's ironic, we're probably doing 3/4 of the crowd that he used to do.
Wonderful.
And when he played a show, there was no seats available, and you could scan out the audience and just see nothing but heads for many, many yards or however long it was from the stage to the grass area. So no, it's just amazing. People are really supporting us, and it's making us really giving us the energy to move on and try to do anything we can to keep Jimmy's name alive.
Wonderful.
That's the whole purpose of it. Just keep the party going, as he said.
There you go.
Yep.
So what is it that you enjoy most about touring?
Well, meeting people and seeing people. We don't have. See, when we was with Jimmy, we used our show entitled. We'd show up about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, do a quick sound check, and maybe go get a bite to eat. They always catered food for us, and then right before the show, there was kind of a, if you want to call it, a meet and greet area where people that had special tickets could come in and meet the band and this. Well, we don't. We don't really have that now per se, but still on occasion there is a meet and greet thing, and I like that part of it. I like being able to meet people and have and see what just how they're enjoying the show and this kind of camaraderie like we used to do years ago.
And yet the whole touring schedule has to be sort of grueling. Are there things that you dislike about touring?
No, not now. I mean, years ago it was so easy because we flew out usually a day or so before we started the tour, or we'd play a show and then we'd have a day off, or maybe two, and then we'd play another show, and in between we'd fly from show to show on private jets. And so we don't have that right now, but it's just no big deal just to jump on the bus, and we've all got bunks, and just climb in your bunk and ride for 4 or 5 hours. You're in the next town and get plenty of rest, and may even have a day off that day. But even if you had to play a show, you still get plenty of rest. So, no, there's nothing I don't like about the way we're doing it now. It's kind of like the old days when people, that's about all they did was travel on buses. Very few, especially the
Yeah.
bands, very few bands ever flew back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s,
So you don't miss the private jets.
Well, yes, I do miss it, but it's not a downer to the point to where I just hate going out on tour.
It's
Now,
a
if I had
different
to,
lifestyle, but in touring, but it's as enjoyable, just in a different way, right?
well, yeah, and we all come from the days where you play a show and you jump in the van and drive to the next show, and back when we all started out as kids, we didn't have all this luxury. So if
Yeah.
people would just put their mind to it, it's what we've done most of our lives anyway. So, no,
That's a
it's
that's
go
a
ahead.
great attitude because some artists they get used to a certain lifestyle and they don't want to go back to the old lifestyle. But with you guys, it's fine.
Oh yes, because we're just adapting to the situation. We know it's never going to be like it was with Jimmy because the what financing is there. We need it for the. That's why we go out and do it so we can at least make a living ourselves. So
Yeah.
we just don't have the funds that Jimmy used to have behind him. And he did a lot of things he didn't have to do. I mean, he could have put us on buses going from town to town. He didn't have to fly us on private jets.
Yeah.
But he did. But it's just something that I look back on and appreciate it, but it's not something I expect nowadays. I understand how the world is and the situation that we're in. And so you just have to make it work if you want to do it. If you don't, then you need to get out of it.
So these days, are you considered an independent artist?
No, not me per se. The only independent things I do is, like a lot of musicians, I have a home recording studio, and people, a lot of the Trop Rock artists and Jimmy's type artists send me songs to put my steel on. And years ago, when I was all doing a lot of studio work, we all said, "Well, I wish we could phone our part in," and it's almost at that point because they
Yeah.
send me a song, I'll put it in my computer, I'll play my steel part. I'll copy that steel part off to a file and send it back to the people that sent it to me, and they put it in their software and do whatever they want to do with it. So that's the only independent stuff I do, other than playing a lot of the private Parrothead shows. I don't. I work a lot doing other shows, like for the Parrothead organizations. They'll hire me to come out and play with some artist or maybe a local band, and with Jimmy, it's all just the band, and we play the songs we rehearsed and are going to do on the shows. But I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
it's it's just something to look forward to. I have so many other avenues that I do things in. It makes it interesting, and it keeps it fresh for when I do go out with the Coral Reefers, because it's all different. You know, when I play my private shows with the Parrotheads, that's a total different regiment and way that we do things. Same thing with recording at home. It's different. And with the Coral Reefers, it's all different. So it keeps life exciting, really.
So how much time are you on the road versus being at home?
Well, it's been, just scattered. Not scattered, I'd say. I was home last year. I was probably home maybe a week or two, and then I'd go out. But there were certain months I was out of town for 3 weekends right in a row,
Mm,
either with Jimmy and of course that 2 months that we opened for the Doobie Brothers, that was almost constant. Those
last
10
summer.
days we were out, there was no coming home or anything. But now this year, I very seldom start getting booked like I am. I can look from now all the way to August, and I've got something almost every month.
Wow.
Sometime 2 or 3 things that take me out of town. Most of, let's say, a couple of weeks, a month. And then we got a tour coming up, or a cruise, I should say, with the Land Sharks. It's a Mediterranean cruise, I think, and that's in February.
Mm,
So that'll be about 10 days, and it just
nice.
from now till August, I just got scattered stuff every month.
So how does that demanding lifestyle affect your personal life?
Well, it's fun because see, my wife is she's she's been in music like me just about all of her life, and she understands what has to be done. And a lot of times she goes with me. She's going with me on the cruise we're doing. And sometime if I have to just jump in a car and drive to St. Louis or Indianapolis to play one of the Parrothead shows, she'll go with me too.
Hmm,
There's sometimes I just can't get there by car and they have to arrange flights. And so, unless they pay for her fare, which they usually don't, uh, she doesn't go with me when I fly most of the time.
okay.
But she does just about all of my booking, and she booked people like Ronnie McDowell, who was a famous country music singer, and
Yeah.
Nadira Shakur of the Coral Reefer, and Tina, and several other acts that she worked with, and she books them on shows and handles their uh, personal music uh, things that they might do whenever she can. So she stays busy in music as well as
Great.
I do.
Like a built-in manager in your family.
Well, yeah, I don't. It would take a lot of my time for me to do what
Yeah.
she does, and but she can do it. She's on the phone or on her laptop all day long, just talking to people and booking flights and following up on people that trying to get me or somebody else that she's handled booked on a show, and it's a full-time job.
Sounds like it. So
Yeah.
do you give me a little glimpse into a little bit more of your personal life? You guys have children, grandchildren?
Oh, good gosh. You won't believe it. We have 4 children between us. And I think last count we had 21 grandchildren and about probably 5 to 8 great grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, I got great grandchildren that's older than some of my grandkids.
Is
That
that
I
right?
figure that one out. But no, we have a house full sometime.
Yeah,
They
you
don't
guys
all live, and they don't
get
all
to
live here, so we don't get together all the time. But enough to where we know each other, pretty
that's
well.
wonderful. You
Yeah.
must have a big Christmas celebration every year.
Yeah, usually whenever everybody's in town, sometimes we have to get together before or after Christmas because of everybody's schedule. And but it works out good. We got a great family.
Wonderful. And let's talk a little bit. Let's shift gears, talk a little bit about the pedal steel guitar.
Sure.
I I personally just love the sound of the pedal steel guitar. And for me, for the right song, it adds just a certain kind of soul that you can't get from any other instrument. What do you love most about the pedal steel guitar?
Well, that being able to just take a song that really needs that sound and kind of mold it into making that song better in some parts. It just needs, it's just like some songs need violins, to kind of fill up that void. The pedal steel kind of does that, especially on country songs,
Hmm.
especially on like choruses and certain instrumentals or solos. It just adds a character you can't get with anything else.
Right.
It's, and I've, years ago, well, I still do. I play electric guitar too, but there's no way you can play the same thing on an electric guitar. Years ago, I used to try it when the pedal steel first started coming out, and I wasn't playing it too much. I would try to mimic those licks on electric guitar, but you just don't have the sustain because, see, a pedal steel doesn't have any, the only frets that's on it are visual. They're just markers because the strings are that high off the neck, and which gives it the fullness and be able to sustain notes for a long time that you can't do at a guitar because the frets after a certain point will kill the note. You can only hold it so long, even with a volume pedal. So that's what I like about the steel guitar. It just adds a character that you can't get especially on a country song. And I just got an email from a guy that says I was the reason he started playing pedal steel, but there was a time whenever I played on probably as many pop and rock and roll songs as I did country songs. People like England Dan and John Ford Coley, of course Buffett, and Dr. Hook. Some of the pop and rock groups, even Kenny Rogers in the First Edition. I played on one or two of their songs, and it just I guess a lot of people in a lot of the market, country, pop, whatever, kind of liked that fullness it gives. That only thing you could come close would be an organ, and it's too full sounding. It'd be a whole different thing. You just one couldn't replace the other one, per
Yeah.
se. But that's what I like about steel. It just gives, and plus, I love it when it comes. See, steel guitar's been around ever since the 30s or 40s, but there wasn't the pedals on it like there are now that pull the strings and give you sounds and make the chords. And it was a more of a lot of people, that's why people call it hillbilly music, I guess. But it was more of I don't know, it was more of a raw sound. It's similar to what people call slide guitars nowadays. So
Hmm.
I wasn't too much into steel until back in 1955. A guy named Ray Price, a big country singer, recorded a
Right.
song called Crazy Arms, and it had that pedal steel on it. And I've just loved it ever now and then. I mean, ever since then. And in fact, that was about 55. So I was a teenager, and but I was playing in bands, playing guitar. So if we had a steel player in the band, I would ask him if I could mess around with his steel on the break. So I got to learn how the steel functioned and everything a little bit by just messing around with some of my friends' instruments while we were out playing live music, but I'd do it while they were on a break, and I'd get up there and mess around with it. So by the time I really got serious, I saw country music coming back in around not 62, somewhere in that area, because from about 1955 on, the rock and roll era kind of dominated
Hmm.
the market, and there was a lot of country singers that were trying to do rock and roll because that's the only way they could get records played and be able to book shows. So when I saw country kind of coming back in around 62 or so, I decided I was going to play steel guitar because there were so many guitar players. Although I was a decent guitar player, it was just
Mm.
a fat chance of me getting a very good gig, because there's so many takers in the line. But on steel, it was such a new instrument. Very few people were playing it. So I had people saying, "Ah, you're making a mistake. You play guitar good." I said, "No, I think I know where it's going," and I was right.
You were right.
It was the best thing that I ever did. I couldn't have done anything else that would have advanced my career anymore.
Well, great.
And
So,
plus, by being somewhat familiar with it, I learned pretty quick. And I don't know, I guess it's a natural instrument for me because probably after about 8 or 9 months of playing it, I was doing recording sessions in Dallas and playing in bands and this sort of thing. So it was a good move for me.
and the pedal steel guitar has, I'd say it has its own personality. How would you describe the personality of the pedal steel?
Well, it's kind of like a lot about what I've been saying is it's such a full sounding instrument, but yet it's as punchy, if you want to call it, as say an electric guitar solo or something. It stands out in the song. It's not like we was talking about an organ a while ago. Well, a lot of people use organs on things and electric pianos just to kind of fill up the mid range of the recording a little bit, but a steel does more than that. I mean, it just really stands out. It can play solos. It can even do chords if you just want a section where you just want the steel to sustain for an effect. There's just so many things the steel can do. It can play single notes, can play chords, and that's what
You
I
can
like it.
cry, you can
Oh yeah,
cry.
yeah, yeah. It's
So
I just
when you're playing pedal steel, how do you decide when to lead or just add a little flavor?
that depends on the song, and it's my approach to playing is I just don't like something that just takes over the song. I think the steel can add warmth and a certain dimension to a certain, say, a chorus or something that needs the lyrics just need a little something to make them lift out of the track. A pedal steel can kind of do that. And when playing a solo, even if it's a song, most country songs, you can take the solo from the melody of the what the song is a lot of times. But if it's a song that may be a little up tempo and they still want a steel guitar solo, you can't really always play the melody, but you can hint at it. So I like to always keep the melody of that song somewhere within my playing if I can. There's a famous steel player that I loved when I was growing up called Jimmy Day. He had a knack of that. He could play anything in any register on the steel and even vary away from the melody, but you could always feel that melody in what he
Mm.
was playing. And I think, well, without a melody, songs would be nothing. They'd be instrumentals. So,
So when somebody says to Doyle, "I'd like you to play pedal steel on this song,"
hmm
um, there's no sheet music for it. You just basically wing it. You determine
they,
on your own
they,
how
yeah,
much pedal steel and what the melody will be.
yeah. Now, if we're doing a live session where everybody is there, then you've got a producer that might give you an idea of what he's looking for. But if somebody just sends me a song and say, I want you to put steel on this at my house, I first listen to that song several times just to get the mood of before I even hit the first note. And I try to get an idea, excuse me, of what that song's trying to portray.
Hmm.
And then, whether I'm doing fills or solos or whatever, I try to stay within the realm of what that song is putting out melody wise and thought wise. I mean, if I think a good player can actually bring the thought out in the song, even though it's not they can't
Yeah.
sing. It just depends on what you play. Like I was saying, if you stay within the realm of what that song, the melody and what it's trying to say, then you'll give it the character it's supposed to need. a lot of people, and I'm not bragging on myself, but they say that, that's what they like about sending me songs is that I put things in that they probably didn't expect to hear, and most of them don't even tell me what to play. Every
I
now and
think
then they might tell me where to play, that they need a little help in the course or this or that. But most of the time they just leave it up to me, and I very seldom have to redo anything. Not because I play so perfect, it's just that I give them I guess that what they're looking
yeah.
for, or maybe even something better.
I think sometimes the pedal steel can add a lot of emotion to a
Yeah.
song.
Well, sure it
Uh,
can. Like you're saying, the crying part, and that just
yeah.
comes from maybe playing a little higher on the neck for people that don't know what crying on steel means, and kind of using vibrato on your bar and just making the notes really almost cry, like you said. And it can be done. And there's a lot of steel players that are better at it than others. But I try to do that every now and then, just if the song calls for it.
So
So,
we talked about the emotion of the pedal steel guitar sound. Do you ever, when you're playing, do you ever personally get emotional about the music?
oh yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think if you play something and don't feel it somehow, I don't think you're doing what you should do. That's why I was saying when I have the opportunity, now if you're in a recording studio and that light comes on, you gotta do something because somebody's paying for that time. But when
Hmm.
somebody sends me something to my house, it's at my own discretion to play what I feel like. But like I said, I sit there and listen to the song before I even start playing to get into the mood of it, and then yeah, I get emotional when I play. I use speakers most of the time when I record, but sometimes I'll put headphones on so that I can crank up the reverb and have it just fill my head full of sound. I mean, so I can just really get into it. Well, yeah, I think if you don't most of the time get emotional about your playing, you're not really maybe giving it what you should. So I get very emotional by playing. It don't show, or it
Yeah.
doesn't show. I can't say. It's like when I'm on with the Coral Roofers and I do my solo on Come Monday. I'm really feeling what I play, but I don't really show it. I'm just not an outwardly. A lot of guys they really move around and get. Of course, I can't do that with my steel, but some of them can show it a little better than others. I just don't show emotion that well when I play, but I feel it, and that's the
How
most important part.
how would you describe that feeling?
I don't know. It's just something that comes on. You get so involved in what you're doing, you don't think about anything but trying to make that song sound as good as you can at that point that you're feeling this. And it's a feeling you just can't explain. It just, it fills you with, I don't know if you want to call it pride or just a good feeling knowing that you're playing that song the way it's supposed to be played or at least the way you feel it should be played. So, I don't know. It's just. I mean, how do you explain emotion about anything? It's just like getting emotional when you watch a movie or something.
Mm.
It's almost that same point, not to the point of tears or anything, but it fills you with a feeling that you just don't want to do anything but what you're doing.
That's great because listening to the music, listeners get the same feeling from it.
Well, I hope so, and that's supposed to be the essence of getting a good recording is to to give people emotion. It's just a listening way of the same emotion that people get when they watch a movie, you know. And if you can portray that, I think you got a hit record, you know. It's not all that
So,
easy to do to get through to people like that.
yeah. So let's go back a little bit to your days with Jimmy Buffett. How did you first cross paths with Jimmy Buffett?
Well, I was back in the early '70s after I quit working with this guy named David Houston. I got a chance to go to work with a group called Tom Paul and the Glazer Brothers. They were a trio on the Grand Ole Opry. One night we were recording. Uh, they were on MGM Records, and we was recording something for a new album or a single or something. But it was two of Jimmy Buffett songs called "The Christian" and "Tin Cup Chalice." Now I didn't know Jimmy, never even heard of him, but somewhere during that night he had shown up, him with a friend of his and mine too, named Buzz Cason, who was a pretty well-known producer and songwriter. In fact, he was in Brenda Lee's first band. But anyway, we were recording those two songs, and when we took a break, Jimmy come up to me and he said, introduced himself and said, "I just signed with ABC Dunhill Records." That was a big recording company at the time, and they were starting kind of a country pop division. And he said, I'd like you to play on my next album. So I said, "Oh, great," because we heard that a lot, or somebody saying they're going to do this and that, and I want you to be part of it. But they called about a month later and set up the sessions. The first album was White Sport Coat and a Pink Crustacean, and I did about 3 or 4 uh, albums. It was actually albums at those point with vinyl and everything. Uh, I did about 3 or 4 in a row. Then he had Margaritaville, which I didn't play on because he had switched producers. And then he kind of moved into kind of a country pop vein. And I didn't actually see him much from about 75 until, 99. He'd call me occasionally to play on maybe one song or this or that. But they called me up and said, "We're doing a full CD on Jimmy Buffett. This is called the Beach House on the Moon." And so I didn't know it, but he had told some of his guys in his group. He said, "I'm going to have him and the band before this is all over." And of course, I didn't know anything about that either. But a couple months later, they called and offered me a touring job. And at that time, my studio work was kind of slowing down in Nashville. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and this gave me something to do. So I took it, and I haven't looked back since. It was great. So that's how I
A
met him.
call that changed your life forever, right there.
Oh, well, yeah. I don't know what I'd have been doing because this was during the late 90s, and when everything, Nashville was kind of changing. There wasn't as many sessions, and what few there were, just a handful of musicians were doing most of them. And so I really didn't know what I was going to do. So it really came about. I've been lucky all through life of something happening that just kind of moved me to the next stage,
Mm.
either professionally or financially better. And that's kind of been the essence of my career. It's just been luck. And you got to be decent enough player, but it depends on who knows you more than anything else, I think, and who likes your playing.
And
But
one thing leads to another, and then you get a lucky
that's
break
it.
somewhere, and that leads to other lucky breaks.
That's it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm amazed. I know a lot of players that I'm sure they play as good as I do that never had that kind of luck, and
Hmm.
they wound up having to leave Nashville because some of them I'm talking about would either be tied up working with a Grand Ole Opry artist, which was great, but if they retired or they started losing popularity and couldn't work much, they would lose their job. And if they didn't have many connections, they had to probably leave town or go to work in a day job or something. I've seen it happen to too many of my friends, and it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with their playing. It's
Right.
just they just didn't have they didn't know enough people to move on to a better position, I guess is what
Hmm.
it is. But that's how I met Jimmy, just through a recording session.
And tell me quickly a little bit about Jimmy. What was he like in his early days? What was it like working with him?
Oh well, especially on the recording sessions. I didn't know him that well, so and when you're recording with an artist, you've also got a producer that you have to answer to, and but luckily on those sessions, that Jimmy and the other producer didn't tell any of us what to do. And I don't think they knew because Jimmy was kind of in uncharted grounds. He wasn't really country, he wasn't really rock and
Yeah.
roll,
Yeah.
and he wasn't really pop. He was just Jimmy Buffett. And we were all trying to find a mold to give him some sort of sound some way. I mean, William had fiddle on some of his records.
Mm.
A guy named Vassar Clements, who was a famous bluegrass fiddle player, played fiddle on some of those records. And of course, there's steel all over the first one, and Reggie Young, the guitar player, added his own character to him, and just a combination of all of our styles, kind of what made what the early Jimmy Buffett. And but it was a lot of fun because we weren't locked into what we could play, and I think they wanted us to experiment because I'm not sure they knew what to do with Jimmy at that point either, even including the record label.
Was there
But
some point at which you realized that you said to yourself, wow, this is something special and it's going someplace?
oh, I always thought he was different. Uh, in fact, whenever we come Monday, Mike Utley, the keyboard player, who had been with Jimmy for years. I mean, well, for most of their whole life.
Mm.
Uh, he remembers me telling him, saying, "That's a hit song," and I believed it. I thought it would be a monster record. It was a big record. Jimmy told me later when I was talking to him about it. He said it wasn't a big hit, but it was big in regions. Like it might be big in Chicago, maybe not in Dallas or the bigger markets. It wasn't big in all of them. And I guess you have a so-called hit record. But the thing of it is, it stood the test of time. You could still walk into any place that they have canned or piped in music. You're
Yeah.
probably going to hear that or Margaritaville before you
Mm-hmm.
get out of there.
Does that, when you play come Monday, does it ever like give you goosebumps? You think this is so special?
Well, when I first heard it, yeah, because boy, they did so much in the studio to make it. I mean, it just sounded like there was a whole big fullness coming over the speakers when I did the solo because they added so much
Mm.
reverb to it and delay or whatever they did to give it a massive sound. Yeah, I was very amazed. I didn't know what they would do to it. Now I like the way we play it live better than the way it was recorded because for somehow during their years of traveling, when I first came in the band, the solo that I played was only like about a 4 bar. Really call it a turnaround because wasn't a lot there, but they lengthened the solo to include that section twice. So now when I'm on stage, I play the first part of it almost like a country song with pedal steel, and then I do that thing I did on the record, that little identifying lick that's on the original record, and it makes more sense to me that way. I wish we'd have recorded it like that.
Yeah.
But the reason I played what I did on the original record is I couldn't I couldn't see just putting a normal steel guitar solo on a song that was so unique like that. I thought it needed just something that made the solo stand out a little more or made more sense or something. I kind of thought if I just put a regular steel turnaround on it or whatever you want to call it for that instrumental, it might hurt the song. So I tried to come up with something that was just more of an effect. It actually is more of an effect than it is a steel guitar sound, but it really fit the record, I thought. And a lot of people have commented about it.
So if you were, you played with Jimmy Buffett for 25 years straight or so, prior to his passing.
Yes.
And so you guys were, you're you knew each other so well, and you were good friends and colleagues. If you were if you were to get the opportunity to sit down today with Jimmy Buffett for a beer, what would you say to him?
Well, first of all, I would thank him for including me in his musical life because it really heightened my life emotionally, financially, and every other way, and I guess that's what I do to show him my appreciation of him believing in me because he could have, I hadn't been around him much all those years before we did that Beach House on the Moon album where he told somebody in his group he was going to hire me. He could have hired anybody in the world, because we hadn't been close for 20, 25 years up to that point, from 75, probably up until 99. But, I don't know. I would just show him how much, or try to make him understand how much I appreciate him believing in me, because that's what it comes down to. I've heard him talking to other people that I just kind of casually overheard where he was bragging on my playing and as far as the whole band, he had everybody in that band, but the last, I'd say 5 to 8 years of his life, he had everything in that band that he wanted. That band didn't change very much over those years, except Ralph McDonald, the percussion player, passed away, and Eric Darkin from here in Nashville took his place in the band. But up to that point, I was the newest member of the band, and I'd been there for 20 something years up to that point. So, he just didn't change. Once he got what he wanted, he didn't change very much. He just, he knew what he wanted. And when he heard it, he kept it. I mean, he liked it.
Yeah, he said keep the party going, and the Coral
Right.
Reefer Band kind of took that to heart, didn't they?
Oh yeah. Well, that's why we do everything the way we do it. And, we're not really just a band it's a startup and we can go out there and play or try to have a hit record on our own and go out and do our own show. We have to, I guess, if I have to come out and say it, we have any sense about what we're doing, we have to stay with Jimmy's format because that's what the whole thing's about. Keep the party going would make any sense without us playing Jimmy Buffett songs. And I don't think we could please the crowd just like Jimmy did. What if Jimmy all of a sudden wanted to change his, like a lot of artists do, they'll change their format and they don't want to do this song anymore. They don't want to do that one. That would have killed him immediately, just like it would us. If we don't go out and do Jimmy's songs and try to do them the way that he used to do them, then we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, so to speak. It's, we just, well, and who wouldn't want to do that? I mean, he had some of the
Yeah.
best music in the world. We want to play it, it's what we do.
So, a broader look at trop rock music and the trop rock genre in general, what's the role of the Coral Reefer Band in the overall trop rock genre?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that because I think that we just really consider ourselves Jimmy Buffett music, and Trop Rock covers a lot more. I think that's why they started the name Trop Rock, so that some of those artists, because they were doing other, it might have been similar to Jimmy's music, but they weren't totally doing. See, when we played the Coral Reefers, I don't think we play a song that Jimmy didn't record or have something to do with. But some of the Trop Rockers, they may include a song or two of Jimmy's in their show, but they're basically doing their own material, songs they've written, and it may even have a different feel than what a Jimmy Buffett song would have. But for the most part, they're still honoring Jimmy, and they're doing it for Jimmy, but they're doing it their own way. And the way we do it exactly. We're playing the
Yeah.
same licks, the same way we played behind Jimmy. It's just it's Jimmy Buffett shows without Jimmy Buffett. Is what it amounts to when we play live. If anybody ever liked our music playing behind Jimmy, that's what they're going to hear when they come out.
The the Coral Reefer Band members are also, I mean, you're very interconnected with the Trop Rock artists. You go on house concerts together and cruises together, and you back each
Oh
other up
yeah,
and play with
sure.
each
And
other.
I
So
think,
it's still it's a very tight community.
oh yeah, it's still. I think it's still based off of Jimmy Buffett and has that vibe about it. And everybody is probably trying to honor his name and what they do. Along the way, it's just natural. They're going to want to do their own material, some of the
Hmm.
trop rock artists. But I think it got its name and its start from Jimmy Buffett's memory or legacy. And I
Right.
think it'll stay that way for the most part.
It seems like he started the whole focus on, sandy beaches and palm trees and the
Yeah.
Caribbean and the blue waters and relaxation and drinking Margaritavilles and that whole feeling that he created with his music, that the trop rockers have taken that like to another level
Well, they
and
have.
popularized it, continued to popularize it.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. I didn't mean it. If I meant to not say that, that's what I meant. They are taking it to another level. It's just that they're doing it their own way, and I guess that's the only way it can be done. You know, it's just that I guess I'd like to see more of them just keep doing some of Jimmy's music.
Mm.
Because if I was in the considered a trop rock artist, I would definitely be doing some of Jimmy's songs just like when you were a country artist. Back in the days, we always made sure we did some of the most popular songs out there. If we were kind of a cover band, so to speak, we had to kind of play what we knew people liked,
Mm.
and accepted. So if I was a trop rock artist, I would be sure that I did at least some of Jimmy's music.
Yeah. And the Parrotheads love it. They love the Jimmy Buffett music, and they love the new variations from the new trop rock artists of the Jimmy Buffett
Oh yeah,
style of music.
I think there's room for all of it, you know. And I'm just glad that we're being accepted. We didn't know what was going to happen because there's a lot of a lot of groups that have tried to continue on without the leader. It lasts for a while, but I don't know. I'm not sure that this might not be the thing we're on right now with the Coral Reefer Band. We're getting such popularity. It could be a thing that we might be able to do for quite a few years.
I hope so.
Well, I do
We
too.
all
Yeah,
hope so.
yeah.
So
But
I've taken a lot of your time, so I
oh, I
kind of
don't
want
mind.
to, I should wrap it up here. And I know you have a lot to do.
No, I'm
Let,
fine.
let me just ask you, like a final question. What advice do you have for musicians who want to have a long, joyful career like yours?
Well, it. I think they just have to find their audience. They have to find a way to get a following that will support them. Because no matter how good Jimmy's songs were, if he hadn't latched on to something with all the beats, songs, and the drinking and all the things that Jimmy's was kind of known for, uh, if he hadn't had somebody that idolized that lifestyle, I think people actually thought he lived the lifestyle he sang about. And I guess he did some of it. He was certainly outdoors a lot, and I'm sure in his day, I'm sure he did some drinking, but I don't think he ever was the so-called drunk that a lot of people thought he was. He wrote
Mm.
about it a lot, but so I think any new artist has got to find their following. They gotta you gotta try to create a fan base that believes in what they're trying to portray with their songs. Now, see, a lot of artists, they're at the mercy of the record label and the producer. Some of them are not Jimmy Buffett people in the sense of being able to write their own material and create the persona that Jimmy came up with. So unfortunately, they're at the mercy of producers and record labels that kind of choose their direction and the songs they have to do. So, but if they're lucky enough to be an individual that has their own material, like Jimmy did, can set up kind of a persona with their fan base and keep the following, I think that's the best way that they're going to be able to achieve any kind of success in the music business. But that's what Jimmy did. He had the songs that people liked, but they liked him so much they stayed with him for 50 years or more. Yeah.
All right, and one more question, because I
Sure.
know at some point in your career you got the nickname Dangerous Doyle, and that's that's also still the name of your website, dangerousdoyle.com, for people who want to check that out. How did you get that nickname?
Jimmy Buffett. He gave me that name. I don't know. For some reason, he always called me Dangerous Doyle, especially on stage. And, well, mostly on stage. But I don't know. It's just kind of like a hook that you would call anybody that has a certain name. I don't know. Well, for one thing, you couldn't tell it from today, but I'm basically a quiet person. I'm not necessarily a loner, but I'm private.
Uh,
And if somebody in the room is carrying on a decent conversation, I'm not usually one to jump in. I just kind of listen, and I'm more private than a lot of people are. And I think Jimmy zeroed in on that, because I don't talk a lot, and I think it's kind of an opposite effect
yeah,
of
it's an
if you
ironic name.
well, if you said quiet doll or something, it wouldn't be the same as dangerous doll because it makes me look more outgoing than I really am,
Right.
So, but I mean, there was a time when he started calling my fans doilies because they would come to the shows and then hold up these banners that had my name written on it, and he said, "Oh, there's the doilies again." So he always picked on me. Not always, but I mean, he liked to. But
Yeah.
he was a character. He didn't miss nothing. There was one time I was, I have a habit of looking at my watch a lot. It's
Yeah.
just, I may even know the time and I'll look down at my watch. It's just a habit sometimes. I made the mistake of doing that on stage at the point he turned around and looked back at me. He said, "Oh, you're not having a good time, Doyle, or you're tired, or what?" I mean, he made a big point out of it. He never missed the opportunity to dig at me about something. So I think that's where the dangerous Doyle thing come from, just a kind of an opposite saying of my true persona.
All right. And again, people find out more about Dangerous Doyle, go to dangerousdoyle.com.
Yeah, well, that's
And
why we named the website that, because everybody's been so used to hearing it. Why not? So.
all right, Doyle. Well, thank you again very much for being my guest today on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. And thank you for all the great music you've created over the years and for keeping the party going.
Well, I'm glad to be part of it, and I'm going to do my best to make that happen.
For more information about Doyle, visit beachmaniac.com, where the podcast is hosted. There you'll find both the audio and video versions of the interview, along with video clips and links to Doyle's social media pages. You can also watch the video podcast on the Beach Maniac YouTube channel. Just search for Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. While you're there, be sure to check out a separate podcast that we've posted featuring clips of Doyle playing the pedal steel guitar, along with his insights into his approach to the instrument on those songs. And thanks to everyone for joining me, Bill Hurley, the Beach Maniac, as we go behind the scenes and explore the magic behind the music. For more about me and my passion, visit beachmaniac.com or contact me at bill@beachmaniac.com. Remember, whether you're soaking up the sun or catching the waves, we hope you're feeling those good beach vibes. Until next time, Keep the sand between your toes and the ocean breeze in your hair. Stay safe, stay cool, and we'll catch you on the next wave.
Traded suit ties for sandals and caps.